again with Coastal Progressive and Rainbow Forum on Society Bites Radio. And today we are welcoming Kyla in the third part of our multi-part educational series for diversity and inclusion, and which includes some of the LGBTQ plus community that you normally don't hear from as often. And today, Kyla, welcome. We're so happy to have you back again. And I would like for you to, and I should also mention, today our main part of our talk is going to be about violence against the transgender community. And Lord knows there's been plenty of that over the years. And hopefully with education, this can be slowed. And Kyla is going to be giving us some examples of this and talking about some of this. So Kyla, welcome to our show again today, and so glad to have you back.
Thank you, Steve. I am so glad to be back.
So tell us some of what you throw out some stats or throw out some info about some of the violence against the trans community here, and explain. I guess one of the things I'm sure we all know is that part of the reason the violence seems to escalate against the trans community more than it does against the LG or B community is that because the trans community is a little more visible in their differences, and that may be it, and people fear people who are different. And but give me some thoughts you have there.
Yeah, that is true, and a lot of the stories out there it's ethnicity on ethnicity. In most cases, whether it's the person's partner or family member or close friend, it might just be a total stranger. And this has been going on since Stonewall. And it's sad is what it is, because in a world that's supposed to be advanced and we can't somehow get along, we have to end up hurting or killing somebody just for kicks or to make ourselves feel better or out of a fit of anger is rather appalling and ridiculous.
It is.
Just this year alone, we have had 24 reported cases in the United States. And that doesn't seem like a lot, but when you look at the world stats, which is over 300, I mean, we're part of that. That includes the United States. And it's a lot of it, like I said, is ethnicity on ethnicity. The biggest number is in the black community. And it's a shame. Yeah, it's a shame. It's up to where there's been 20 black transgender people. And some of these are transgender males, don't get me wrong. It's not just the transgender females throughout the years. Since 2013, I totaled up the numbers of reported cases, and we have 154 in the United States.
Lord.
Yeah,
Awful.
and in Florida, just this year, we've had 3, and 2 in the black community, 1 in the white community. And it was a case where it was in the black community, the black on black, and in the white Caucasian, it was her partner in a fit of rage.
Oh, Lord.
And, yeah, it's disheartening. Just last year in Florida, we had 6 total. And 5 of them they thought may be related by a serial killer. 4 of them happened in Jacksonville. Another one happened in Orlando, and another one, I believe, was around Tampa area. And it was the same modus operandi, MO, that the ones in Jacksonville had. And then the other one was down in Northport, where she happened to have known the person who murdered her. And they got rapid response on the DNA, in order to convict the person, but they found her vehicle a quarter mile away from where the perpetrator lived. So, I mean, I get kind of nervous when I read these things, but when I'm out and about driving, people are like, well, be careful, protect yourself. And I never really think about it,
Yep.
but just to even read some of these stories makes you want to cry.
I know some parents of transgender children, and they are very concerned. I'm in a group with them. In fact, I sit on the board for one of the for PFLAG, and the parents often are very concerned about their trans children and their safety.
Yeah, the youngest one so far in the United States is a 17-year-old trans girl up in Baltimore, and she was shot in her torso, and they rushed her to the hospital, but she didn't survive. And I read another one. It was a 66-year-old trans woman that was murdered. She's there living out her life the way she wants to live. And a lot of the cases is because we don't have strong laws to protect the transgender community, let alone the LGBT community. Yes, and we don't even get the stats all the time from the American Indian population.
Oh, yes.
Exactly.
Exactly.
With their two-spirits. In 2017, there was one reported case. But I know when I did my research for my thesis paper for my public health degree and my master's program, there were more stories out there from the two-spirited community. And it's really hard to get those because we don't have the quantitative data. A lot of times on the stories, their dead name gets used when they're first reporting, and then the families have to say, no. This is the person, this is she, this is they, this is he, if it's a trans male. They have to correct the news media, and then the news media has to go through because proper reporting doesn't get put in place. And that all has to do with at the medical examiner's office because they don't really have a category for transgender people.
Mm-hmm.
It's either male or female. It's not how you present, it's how you were born. And even if you've had the sexual reassignment surgery, for the transgender female, if you are at risk of prostate cancer, they're going to leave that. And then when they do the autopsy, boom, there it is. So they automatically say male and move forward. And then if you've had insurance, and I know this from going through the Florida insurance class, that if you put down female and then at autopsy, they will adjust everything to put you back to your birth sex. And that means you had a lower rate as a female, but you died and they discovered that you were not that way naturally, then they're going to take money back out of that settlement so your family doesn't get the full benefit.
Well, that's awful.
Which is but it's something that needs to be changed. And it's one of the many struggles that we have within the community. And I was just looking through the cities. I mean, the one in Northport, the one in Inglewood, are really close. We've had in 2018 one in Orlando, 2015 a Latina woman in Tampa, the Jacksonville, Kane City, St. Augustine, Clay Whiston, which is a little town that I've never heard of. But we always hear of sometimes things going on in Miami or Orlando and Tampa, but we don't hear about the little towns. And
I was just going to ask a question here. Do you think that a lot of this boils down to education and trying to change the education system where we can try to get the educators to explain to younger people? I think we've made progress in that area. We're nowhere near being where we should be at. But a lot of, I think, and would you feel the same way that that with education and time, that we'll be able to overcome a lot of this, what we've been through in the violence, and maybe not the violence, but in at least in a more accepting environment? That's, I guess, my question.
I would hope that the new generation would become more accepting. I wish I could say that yes, they are 100%, but they're not, because I've picked some of them up and dropped them off where they need to be. A few of them are very polite and very accepting, and then you get those few, like with the Generation X and the boomers, that are not totally accepting. So it's still a mix, and it's all really boils down to morals and how the people were brought up. But to change someone's morals is a lot more difficult, because that's a value that was instilled in them. But a person's morals can change. Sometimes they need to change for the betterment. I know somebody who really changed their look on life, and from the way they were brought up with all of this, because it's not only the times we live in, but it was a necessity.
Right, and
for them.
And you know, the LGBTQ plus population is much broader than what old stats used to say. I think the current stats run anywhere between 11 and 17%. When the most current surveys that are being taken in the schools, some of the schools and things, as I remember that, I was surprised at how high the stat is running now, because kids are allowed to say, and they as long as they don't fear retaliation, if they're surveyed, you know, how they place themselves. This is junior high and high school kids that are either questioning or something or wherever. But I think I read the stat from in fact, it was the HRC, I believe, that said this, or Equality, maybe this was Equality Florida. I can't remember where it was at. But yeah, and so
yeah, when they do the anonymous blind studies, you get a better result than when you have to try to pull people to raise their hand or something that's going to be,
exactly,
they don't want to really be out there and give the information. And that's the thing with the violent crimes, is their statistics aren't reported the right way, or they're delayed in reporting, because some of them, like the month of December, they get delayed. And so they look like they're on the next year's stats, but then they're not, because it was finally came out that, yeah, this person was transgender. And it's, in order to change the mortality rate for the community, it's going to take education and getting people to realize that every life is precious, and we need to move forward in understanding that everyone has a purpose in life and something to
Correct.
fulfill, because a lot of these were family people. They have kids.
Mm-hmm. Right, and that's another thing. A lot of people still do not get it. I mean, there's still people in this country and all over the world that just don't accept reality. The reality is the LGBTQ community is born that way. They don't choose. I mean, they may choose to try to deny it, but this is reality. Every point of science points to the fact that the LGBTQ community are born that way. In fact, the only part of the community that a lot of the science is, I mean, some of the uneducated people are willing to accept, and they don't accept that because of religious cults, is the intersex community. You know, but you know, reality is the whole LGBTQ plus community